The special session now underway in earnest as we hear testimony or more testimony later today on Senate Bill 1, the proposal from Senate Republicans that would restrict abortion in Indiana. Before that happens, we'll talk to our political insiders. We have Drew Anderson here from the Democrats, Republican Whitley Yates joining us also, and for the first time, WRTV Statehouse correspondent Meredith Hackler is with us on the Insiders segment. Meredith, let's start with you. You were there pretty much start to finish yesterday. It was very loud, quite raucous inside the State House, and that's even before we got to the testimony phase.
And when I was sitting in the testimony, it was really interesting. I think my biggest takeaway is that no matter what side of the political aisle you're on, you're not happy with this legislation. You know, obviously people who are pro-abortion rights, they don't want any more restrictions when it comes to abortion, specifically with this specific bill, because it does limit it to rape, incest, life of the mother, and if the, child has any fetal anomalies. But people on the other side of the aisle, people who are anti-abortion rights, don't like it either, because a lot of the people who were in testimony said that they don't think there should be any exceptions in some cases, and others said they don't think that the exception for rape or incest should be allowed. So it was a very interesting, testimony. It picks back up at 9 today. It's going to last until noon, and they actually lasted a little bit longer. I was out there for some of our live coverage at 5 and 6, and they were still taking testimony up until almost 6 o'clock, because there was about 250 people signed up to speak. I'm not sure how many people they got through yesterday, but they definitely had a very long line of people still interested in speaking.
280 people signed up to testify. Obviously, we're not going to get to 280 before the Rules Committee takes a vote and sends this on to the full Senate. Whitley Yates, the National Right to Life Committee, their attorney, prominent conservative attorney Jim Bopp, called Senate Bill 1 a wolf in sheep's clothing. And that was not the only Republican opposition, as Meredith alluded to a very Republican abortion restrictions bill. What is the feeling on the Republican side right now? Because there seems to be quite a bit of conflict as to how far this bill should go.
Yeah, what you call conflict, I call contrast. So you're going to have a spectrum of people who think that it doesn't go far enough. And there are some Republicans who think that it goes too far. And there are others that are happy with exactly where it's at. And so you're going to find a contrasting view, specifically on the conservative side, about where this bill lands. I think what the legislators are doing and what they need to continue to do is make rules and make laws that are going to impact all Hoosiers and what they think is right from what they're hearing from their constituents.
Drew Anderson, as far as reaching out with your constituents, there were certainly a lot who were on the side of keeping abortion rights the way they are now in Indiana on your side. And that includes the vice president who was in Indianapolis yesterday to talk to lawmakers and to offer their support, kind of putting the national spotlight on Indiana, since we are the first state to hold a special legislative session since the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, Ray, the biggest worry that Democrats have is that Republicans are going to create another RFRA. And I think we have another RFRA on our hands. It's because they are trying to fulfill an extremist agenda on this bill. And it is honestly, Whitley was kind of hinting at it, but when they're trying to find a compromise with an extremist organization like Right to Life, no one wins. And honestly, it just puts more lives in danger. But I will say, when it comes to the vice president coming here, it was quite an honor, because more people need to know what's going on here. And for the vice president to use her time to meet with Democratic leaders, we acknowledge it's a uphill battle. We are in the super minority. We get it. But at the end of the day, we are packing the rooms. We are getting folks out there, and to see more than a couple thousand people at the State House yelling and screaming and demanding that these Republicans actually respect women and respect people who may become pregnant. At the end of the day, it's their choice, and that's what it should be.
Whitley, you're shaking your head. Go ahead.
Look, there's so much to unpack in what Drew said. We are extreme, and their party doesn't even know what a woman is. We're extreme.
Oh, we do know what a woman is.
We do know what a woman is. You don't even call me a mother anymore. I'm a birthing person. At least the vice president, when she came here,
that's how the Republicans frame you, Whitley.
Actually called me a mother. So at least she said that she's, trying to advocate for mothers who are getting pregnant. So at least we know that I'm that. The truth of the matter is, the left is so confused about what's happening right now. They don't know what to call women. They don't know what we are going to do. They're propelling all of this chaos And what you didn't see, let me tell you what you didn't see yesterday at the Statehouse, a ton of Black women. You didn't see a ton of Black women. And then you have the Black vice president come in, who we think is going to advocate for Black lives and is advocating to eradicate Black lives from the womb. That's what's happening. She sits in the silo of sameness with the super minority and comes in as if this is going to make change. How dare you say you want to restore the soul of the nation while sitting in a silo of sameness with more cameras in the room than elected officials?
I mean, I'll just say at the end of the
Political
day,
stunt. It was a political
I'll
stunt.
just say at the end of the day, a large majority of Hoosiers support abortion access in some form. And the fact that Republicans are going so extreme with their bill, they're literally toying with the idea of siding with 17% of the state. That is insane. Literally, when I was walking through the Statehouse yesterday, there were pro-lifers screaming at women who were demanding fairness to their autonomy, saying, "One day you will bow." That is how scary the Republicans are calling to those voters instead of telling them the truth, which is religion. Yes, you should always, have the freedom to practice your religion, but you can't throw it on other people. That's not what America is. And that's what they're trying to do.
Throwing it on other people.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
That's
Yes,
what
you are.
people don't understand.
Yes, you
We're
are.
protecting the lives of the innocent.
No, that's what
And
you're
so
doing.
outside of rape, outside of incest, outside of the life of the mother, and genetic anomalies, what are we arguing here?
Well, I think at the end of the day,
what is it that we're arguing when you're using abortion as birth control? There are so many choices that women make.
No, that doesn't happen, Whitley.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, because you know what,
so
Indiana?
many choices that happen prior to getting to taking the life of that child, right?
There's
so many. The choice
interject?
to lay down and have unprotected sex without using prophylactics, the choice not to use Plan B. There are so many choices that before we get here. And so outside of rape, outside of incest, outside of genetic anomalies, what is it that you're arguing? Because abortion is not healthcare.
At the end of the day, Whitley's not looking at the state's figures because the government, the Holcomb administration released figures of last year's abortion rates, and 65% of people who actually got an abortion were mothers. And so essentially, Whitley is saying that mothers are the ones that are the ones that fall here, and that just sucks that she's doing that and she's attacking women like that.
So okay, let's hold on for a second. First of all, I may have to edit this out, but if Abdul were here, he would say usually they call me the mother, but that's all right. To go back to Drew's point about RFRA, and Meredith, I promise I'll get to you here to talk about what's coming up today. But Drew, you say this could be another RFRA, and if you're just joining us here in Indiana, say in the last few years, RFRA is the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. That was a fight had in the legislature during the former Mike Pence administration back some 7 years ago. Seems like a lifetime ago now. Last week, the ACLU of Indiana released a list of businesses, some 200 businesses across the state, who are in favor of keeping abortion rights the way they are. But notably absent from that list were really the large employers, the ones who spoke out during the RFRA debate, the Eli Lillys, the large, you had some medical organizations yesterday, but you didn't have like really big businesses, large employers speaking out. So are we truly at a RFRA moment, Drew, if we have, and no disrespect to the small businesses who did sign that letter, but you don't have a lot of the big names with the big lobbying dollars behind them on that side right now?
Yeah, and let's also remember that it took a couple of weeks for those big organizations and big businesses in Indiana to speak out because they're waiting to see how that bill, how RFRA was, being finessed throughout the Statehouse. And at the end of the day, the fact that there are a couple hundred businesses that are already putting their foot down, there are a couple hundred faith leaders across the state that are putting their foot down, and now over 1,000 health officials that are putting their foot down. It's building up to that moment, right? And I also say that because we're already having national media focused on this because the Indiana Republicans, they want to be first. They want to be the ones that are leading this extremist crusade. And at the end of the day, here's what's going to happen. They're going to pass this bill, and it's going to tank our economy. Women are going to choose to not come here when it comes to either college or even they're going to think twice about moving here. And it's going to create this really unsafe environment for people who literally could move to Indiana and call it home. And that is the reason why, honestly, at the end of the day, the Republicans have been just throwing our state in the tank.
Now, Whitley, is there a risk of that if, let's say, amendments are made to this bill in Rules Committee before it goes, or even when it goes to the full Senate, that would make it more restrictive? Because the complaint from those on the right about this bill is that there were like no enforcement mechanisms. There were too many exceptions made, or the exceptions were vague. If those are outlined more when it comes to the amendment process, do Republicans run the risk of making this bill such to where there will be more businesses and a lot more people in general criticizing it?
Yeah, so this is what I think is going to happen, because this is how they work. The left, what they're going to do is they're going to create this cancel culture, and they're going to start a social media blackout of the companies that didn't sign the letters. They're going to start picketing them. They're going to start bullying them. They're going to start showing up to their CEOs' homes and creating death threats. Like, that's kind of how they work. And so when cancel culture comes into play and you create monologues in place of dialogue, you do see things like that. You see companies and organizations bullied into supporting things that they don't, or bullied into saying things because their fear of being canceled by mainstream. So that is a possibility. Whether amendments happen or not, I could definitely see that as a strategic play from the left, as that's something that we've seen around the country over the past decade.
Meredith, what do you think?
I wanted to ask Meredith about those amendments, because we probably will see, or could see, some amendments today after more testimony from the public that's expected. What are you hearing as to any potential changes that could be made? Because we have some Republican lawmakers who are very outspoken saying that this does need to be amended. And we also know that there are Republicans like Senator Kyle Walker from here in Indy, or in the Indianapolis area for one, who is more moderate on the issue and has openly advocated for allowing abortion up to 12 to 15 weeks of pregnancy.
Sure. So I think the Republicans that are on the conference committee are happy with the way that the bill is currently written, but I could see Democrats introducing some of those amendments that have been a conversation on both sides of the aisle. So I really think if we are going to see any of those amendments to this abortion bill, we're going to see it in the full Senate. I don't really think it's going to happen in conference committee, because like I said, a lot of those Republicans that are on there are happy with the way the bill is.
Mm-hmm. And they're trying to get it through there as quickly as possible because they want to get it through the full Senate by Friday. So we will see if that happens. And we took a bit more time than I thought we would take for some strange reason, but that's okay. Our political insiders, Whitley Yates, Drew Anderson, and WRTV's Meredith Hackler. Thank you so much.